first series is switching from CAD to BIM. Last week, we did talk about adopting BIM within an organization. We did talk what we need to look forward to, or how do we adopt it in an organization. Now, those who missed last week, they can also send us an email on info@bimwise.com, and we can send you a recording for the last webinar. Today, what I'm going to talk about is the biggest part of the concern that anyone has, anyone who's switching from CAD to BIM. There is a certain process of unlearning. There's a certain process in which we have to start changing the way we think about our work. Now, before we jump into that, I will quickly introduce myself and my company, BIMwise. So BIMwise, we are a training and a professional development company that focuses on training people on BIM-related softwares. We consult people on BIM. We consult organizations on BIM. We also support different organizations on the BIM projects. And this is me. So I'm an architect by education. I have worked with various AEC companies as a BIM manager. Before that, I have worked as an architectural designer, as a project architect, as a Revit technologist. So I have worked on various capacities. However, where I really found my peace was coordinating and managing BIM. So that's how this whole journey of being a BIM-oriented consulting company started. Now, I also want to set some expectations right. This webinar is not for the purpose of giving any guideline to anybody, but this is a medium for me to share my experience with you all because I have seen different companies adopting BIM. I've seen my own company switching from CAD to BIM. So I'm just sharing my experience, and according to my experiences, what are the do's and the don'ts and all of that. Also, this presentation is a comprehensive overview covering the software information and roles and each person has to play in an organization. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you know what CAD is, but just a quick recap from the last time. What is CAD? So I am going to give you two polls right at the start. The first poll will appear on your screen in 1 minute. So quickly, you can tell me what part of industry do you belong to? Architecture, structural engineering, MEP, construction project management, manufacturing. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, so I see a good mix here. I see people from construction management, I see people from civil engineering, and I see people from architecture. That's amazing. Another thing, I want to know what kind of role do you usually play in your organization? And just with this quick poll, let me know what part of organization do you guys belong to. Okay, let's end the poll and see. Oh, it's a good mix also. So we have designers, we have project managers. Amazing. Well, this does help me to know that how you guys will think about BIM and how will you think about CAD and what kind of decision making are you guys into. So let's start with the basic definition. So what is CAD? CAD is basically a technology that is used which has replaced manual draft. We use different softwares like AutoCAD and MicroStation, BricsCAD, SolidWorks. Depending on whatever industry do you belong to, you might have used CAD at one point or the other. AutoCAD is a very, very popular software. A lot of people in this audience has also used AutoCAD. And I say that it is such a versatile tool that we can use it to draw different elaborate floor plans, but we also can use CAD for drawing a complex part of a machine. So it is a versatile software or a versatile technology, I would say. What is really good about CAD is that because we've all grown up using CAD, it just comes naturally to us. But what is BIM? So BIM is an intelligent 3D model-based process that gives architects, engineers, construction professionals a better ability to design. It's a process which starts with conceptual design, which goes from conceptual to detailed design to analysis to documentation to construction planning and eventually to operations and maintenance. So what we do is that we pass on the information from conceptual design to all the way to the asset management so that that information can be used for different purposes. There is a lot of talk in the industry that is BIM a software? Is this a process? What is this? I would say that we can use different softwares to achieve BIM, but BIM in itself is a process that will help you input and extract information within project environment. Now, when we are switching from CAD to BIM, we have to start thinking about a lot of different questions. I'm sure some of these questions might have crossed your mind. Do I have to learn a new software? How complicated it is? What do I have to unlearn? What do you mean by a CAD mindset? All of these are very, very genuine questions. But the thing is that when we start adopting BIM, it's like learning a new language. So now, what do you mean by changing a mindset? So let's say it's like learning a new language in which, let's say you grew up speaking certain language, and then you move to another country and you want to adopt that another country's language. So what is the best way that we can fluent in that language? I think the best way is that we start thinking in that language. And that is where all the difference comes. Now, it's the same case with CAD. Most of us have grown up working in CAD. I've myself been a CAD user for a very, very long time. In fact, I was one of the early adopters of CAD in my peer group. And back in 2012, when I took my first Revit course, I thought, oh, I know Revit, I know BIM, and there it is. And it was, just I would say about 7-8 years ago when I started working with a design technology director at a very large Canadian corporation. I actually had to start thinking not about the software, but about the process. And that is how I know that there is a whole lot of mindset or a perspective change that needs to be taken care of even before we do start working in a new software. So we will go one by one to each of these changes that we need to adapt and what do we need to unlearn when we are adopting them. So the first change is the perspective change. Now, when we are looking at a CAD platform, we are looking at a drawing board. We are looking at, if we give our best shot in CAD, this is what we will achieve. We will achieve a very well-laid set of drawings. We will achieve really good visualizations. We can use different softwares to achieve what we want to achieve. And if you can see in this picture right here at the bottom, this is a watercolor or a hand sketch, a beautiful building. But what else information does it give me? It does not tell me about the material. I know that there is something like a brown colored material on the facade, and then I can see maybe that's stucco, maybe the paving is concrete, but it does not give me more information than that. It is a beautiful picture to look at. My husband the other day said, you know what, I want a house like that, and that's perfectly okay. But when I'm switching to BIM, I'm not just looking at a well-laid drawing or a very nicely rendered 3D view. What I am looking at is a model that has ability to move from one platform to the other, transmit information, and use that information for analysis. Use that information for structural analysis, green building analysis, for solar studies, for calculating the loads. So that model has enough information that I can use it for analyzing. Also, that model, if I am gearing it towards having some augmented reality or a virtual reality platform, that model has capability to do that. And who doesn't want a 3D printing option? So there are a lot of softwares. I know SketchUp is one of those softwares. We can use those models for 3D printing. But what if everything could come out of one model? So we have to start thinking in a way that this is whatever I'm drawing, it's not just a 3D model. It's a repository of information. It's a repository of data, a data that can do different things, data that can give me the results that I want, data that can be passed on from one consultant to the other, from one vendor to the other, from one manufacturer to the other, and create the whole process of design and construction and maintenance as a one uniform process. Next is the process change. Now, the thing is, how we've done our CAD is that initially we start with the conceptuals, we start with adding more details to it. Eventually, as we proceed in the project, we keep on adding stuff to it. Much like a top loading machine, in which right in the middle of the cycle, you can add more clothes if you want to wash, which is amazing. I really appreciate that. However, what happens is, initially, even if we have to put lesser hours, lesser work, and less effort to start and reach a certain level or certain milestone in a project, what we have to do is, as the project advances, we need to add more hours to it. We need to add more people to it. We need to add more details to it, which means that now, let's say I added new people, I have to spend time to get those people up to speed with the project, where everything is, how we are doing what we are doing, and why we are doing what we are doing. All of that, which means that we started with literally zero or very little planning, and then because we keep on adding more stuff to it, there is room for errors, there are gaps, there is a lot of back and forth, there is a lot of wastage, energy that goes waste because things have to be redone. And today Tom left the company and Martha came in his place, and Martha wants to do stuff her way, and there's nothing helping us to get this process streamlined. And just like we can see in this inverted pyramid, if we keep on working like this, it requires a very, very fine balance to keep my project standing up. And it takes a very little effort to make my project go down. So let's say there was a scope creep. Let's say there was any changes that happened at a later stage in the project. Believe me, there are chances of project crumbling down, the profits crumbling down, and of course, all of us stressing out. I'll give you a very personal example for this. So this is back in 2009, I believe. Yeah. So I was working on a project, a school building. Now, this school building was under a trust. So there was a trust that was maintaining all the money. Now, this school building wanted to extend their classrooms. So they wanted to add a new wing to their classrooms. Now, what happened that just when we had the last presentation, the final presentation with the board, and we gave them all the numbers, and it's not that these people were not on the whole design process. We were done with the complete set of drawings. Even we had gone down to extent of taking material takeoff. We were that close. And it was just one final presentation in front of the trust. And they said that, oh, you know what? We don't have budget to build 10 rooms. Can we make it to 8? Just imagine me and my business partner in that room. We are looking at breaking the ground in, let's say, 15 days, 20 days, and they want to change it. And back then, I used to think, oh, client is God. Client is your boss. So you have to do what you have to do. So in matter of 3 days, we had to rework all the plans, all the elevations, all the sections, create new 3D views. But you know what was worst of all? Creating new estimates and creating new specifications. That was the worst part. And you know, when did that happen? Just 2 days before I was going to take off for getting married. So just 2 days before my wedding, when I was supposed to take an off, I was in my room with my partner calculating how much cement and how much reinforcement needs to be cut down. So it's a personal example, but it's a perfect example that when a top loading process, how even one blow can shatter everything. On the other hand, when we are working on a BIM project, it's a front loading process. It's like you first carefully plan what you have to do. You carefully have to strategize even before you start. You open the software and you start doing your sketches and you start doing your conceptuals. What you have to do is plan for the project. You have to see, and BIM is designed that way. You cannot just open a software and start drawing it. You need to know what to use in it. It's not two lines and a hatch that makes a wall. It takes a real wall to make a real wall in a BIM software. So you need to know the thickness of the wall. And maybe you can defer some decisions at later on stages, but you do most of the work, you do most of the planning, you do most of the strategizing right at the start. So what happens is that when I have spent more time planning and strategizing and collecting data and designing a workflow, it means as the project advances, even if there are changes, even if anything happens, we still have lesser work to do, because we know that if we are in fix, this is what we need to do, or this is the course of process that we need to follow. Whenever we have reached to a significant level in the project, let's say towards the final, what I have seen in my experience is that we started with 10 people on the project, and there are only 2 or 3 people who are working on final submissions. There are only 2 or 3 people who are doing material takeoffs or anything that is towards the end of the project. And that's because we had a lot of planning in the start, and which means that if there is any scope creep, it can be handled in a better way. Also, if there was any errors, we have already counted for those errors, which unfortunately working in CAD does not give us. Third change is the coordination change. Now, this is my most favorite part of unlearning. Who has seen something like this? I really want you to type in your chat windows if you have seen a drawing something like this. Kind of drawing is a nightmare for anybody to read. Now, let's say if on a project, I have to coordinate between architecture and structure and mechanical and electrical at the same time. When I want to see who goes where is my HVAC duct and where is my column? Is my HVAC duct crossing a beam? If there is an electrical duct that is overlapping a beam or I'm pretty sure that all of us who are in this session have seen some or other kind of coordination issue. Now, and this is typical of a CAD process. And why? Because I don't know that this green line and this yellow line, are they hitting each other or are they overlapping each other? I don't know that is that the light fixture on my pavement or that's on the ceiling, and by mistake somebody drew it on the floor. So now, see, I can see people are typing stuff like, yes, we've done this and I don't want to see this again. So of course it's hard to read. It does require a lot of in-person coordination. And as we know, in situation like this today, when we are stuck in our houses, coordination like this is definitely going south. If I cannot go and meet my HVAC consultant and I'm on a Zoom call or I'm on a virtual call with my consultant, I'm trying to show them, oh, do you see that green line? Does it, what is it? I cannot read if it's a CH280 valve or it's a manhole. I can't see it. I can't read it properly. Now, and I can definitely not go and see them because we're stuck in our homes. So even if in an ideal scenario where we could go and meet our consultants, there still are going to be so many coordination errors. There are going to be so many clashes on site, which means more money, which means loss of time, and which means a mad client. But what we do in BIM is we do pre-construction clash detection. What we do is we virtually coordinate between disciplines. Now I don't have a 2D flat drawing where I can see that, oh, is this pipe hitting a duct or is it overlapping a duct? Is this crossing this concrete wall or is it cutting the concrete wall? I can literally go and see in my 3D view where everything is. I can demarcate it and I can then send it to the concerned disciplines. So I have worked in a multidisciplinary company in which I had to do a lot of this coordination. I had to bring a structural and a mechanical engineer in a room and ask them that, see, this is the problem, who's going to fix it? And then they know right away, oh, the pipe needs to move a foot above or a foot below or anything. And sometimes even just looking at this makes my decision so much easy, so much quicker, that I don't have to waste time in a back and forth. Now, of course, if in a situation like we are in today, I can show this virtually to my consultant. I can show this that, see, I can be on a web call and I can tell them that this is what's happening. How are we fixing? And this, of course, saves time and money and effort. But what it does most is that it has least number of clashes on site. So if we are all in a BIM platform and we are all doing all of this stuff, but we have to think about the biggest piece of this, which is standardization. Now, if we are switching from CAD to BIM, this means it's the best opportunity for us that if we did not have a CAD standard for our office, for our project, this is the best time to put a standard in place. This is the best time to make things streamlined. By the way, not having even a CAD standard is a bad practice. If you don't know what there is a standard practice for naming your layers or naming your blocks or how and what color each element is going to be assigned to, that's a bad CAD project also. But let's say now we have a chance of moving from CAD to BIM. This is the best time that we can start standardizing. And by the way, if we do not do standardization on a BIM project, it's not really a BIM project. So we do standardization in BIM on two levels. One on an organization level and the other on an individual project level. Now, I would say we have different companies, we have different organizations that do set up standards. Each country, we have different organizations that put forward some standards. So let's say for Canada, we have Building Smart chapter, Canadian chapter. There are ISO standards. UK follows COBie standards. Then there are US has National CAD standards, which now also means National CAD and BIM standards. So we can refer to these standards and we can start studying these standards to see that. And I'll give you basic examples. What are we going to standardize? We are going to standardize our file naming structures, our folder naming structures. We are going to standardize a process that who is going to do what. How are we doing stuff moving forward? This is when my disciplines are going to be coordinated. This is when these many people for this size of the project will be doing this work. So how do we start with it? Of course, we start with the research and we start with a plan. We do research different building standards, different BIM standards. And then we strategize how are we going to adapt it to our organization? How are we going to make these standards or just one or mix of these standards work for how we do work in our organization? And once we have strategized that, then we put a standardization plan in place. That this is what we are going to do. We start with the project and we start standardizing stuff. We apply it on the project and then we see what works for us, what does not work for us. And this is my lessons learned from my first part. And these are my lessons learned from the second project. And these are my lessons learned from the third project. And when I have an amount of stuff to work with, I would say that now I know the loopholes with my strategy and my standards. And when I have loopholes, then I go back to my plan again. Then I go back and research that what other companies have done in this situation and what other people have done in this situation. And then I re-strategize, and then I re-standardize, and then I reapply. And then if there are any loopholes, and we keep on moving till we have a perfect process in place where when we apply and test, it works for us. It has no chaos. BIM is such a complicated process. If we do not follow standards, And BIM is a very simple life-saving process. If you're in construction industry, if you're in architecture industry, if you have standardized your procedures and workflows. Now, if I talk about the project workflows, now when we worked in a CAD environment, what we saw was that, oh, yeah, we had an architect or an engineer doing basic sketches, and then we start drafting them, and then we start adding details to it and stuff like that. But if you remember just a couple of slides ago, what I said, that we need to know why are we using BIM. If we know why we are using BIM for, we can define our goals, we can define the uses, we can define what do we need to achieve with BIM. If we do that, we can plan our project accordingly. We can see that we can decide that this is going to be moving forward process that, okay, somebody is going to set up the project. The people who are doing sketches by hand, while people who are doing conceptuals, all of these people will be able to do what they are doing. And there will be a project planning team which will be working towards setting up that basic 30%. Now, when we have done that, we will have a workflow design. We will have a design in which this is my step 1, this is my step 2, this is my step 3, this is my step 4. When I have my conceptuals, this is how much I will work, this is going to be my level of detail, this is going to be what I am going to do, and this is what I am going to achieve out of each of these steps. Now, when I have designed a workflow and I'm doing this, I will end this all down in a BIM execution plan. I would say that a BIM execution plan in a BIM project is as important as a project management plan or a project plan, or even a project. Some of you must be acquainted with a word called PSOS. So basically the Bible for the project, where we have the scope and the time and the budget and the deadlines, everything that is related to a project, we have a PSOS. And our BIM execution plan is as important as a PSOS on a project, because it is giving direction to people that what we are doing, why we are doing, and how we are. For your information, in our last seminar, we did discuss the whys and the hows and the whats. So if anybody needs a recording for our last webinar, we are happy to send it to you guys. Now, when we have designed a project workflow, now when we have achieved that process, now we will see automatically we have achieved a mindset in which I'm thinking in a BIM language, where I'm thinking in a language of that this is information, this is not my CAD, this is not my digital drawing board. This is just not a 3D view that I can use to show my clients how their project looks like, but this is an intelligent 3D in which if I make changes in one part, every part of my building does react how it should react in real life. I am creating a digital twin of my project and not just dumb plans and elevations and sections. We are towards the end of this webinar. This finished sooner than what I was thinking. You will see another poll on your screens, and this poll will be, what are your top 3 whys? Now, if you guys have decided that you want to move to BIM, before you step out of this presentation, tell me why will you adopt BIM? And I need to know your top 3 whys. Okay, I'm going to end poll in 3, 2, 1. Now, let's see if, so good mix. So yes, of course, everybody wants to keep up with the industry, and we want to work in a better coordinated way. Nobody sees a better return on investment, or maybe we didn't cover. Just an FYI, all the BIM softwares are expensive, but CAD softwares aren't cheaper either. I will open the floor for questions now. So you can type your questions in a question and answer pod up there, and I'll try to answer as much as I can. Okay, so Ravi says, may I get recorded version of the session? For sure, I will send everybody who has attended this session, they will get a recorded version for sure. And we are also going to put a link on our YouTube channel. So this will be also available on our YouTube channel. If you go and type BIM Wise on YouTube, You will find our channel. You can share, you can subscribe, and you will find even more interesting videos in there. Okay, if you don't have more questions, I would happily want to spare these 15 minutes in thanking you all, and thank you so much you joined. It was really nice. The session was really good. At least working towards it, it made me realize that how much do I like being a BIM consultant. But do get some time to visit our website if you want to know what if we do, what else do we do. We have our email ID info@bimwise.com. If you have any questions, any suggestions, you can email us. You can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. We will keep on posting new videos, and as soon as we come up with a new webinar series, we will notify you. Thank you so much.